Hello everybody, it's not World Book Day today, but we are doing the annual World Book Day Slam today, the first week back after half term. Welcome back everybody, because next Thursday is the Serpent High School Fashion Show, which most people will be involved in, watching or even watching at home, and so will not be at Lit Soc. So it's today, and in traditional mode we will be proselytising, promoting and pontificating about our favourite books, or it might be our read of the moment, or it might be something I picked up yesterday in the library and suddenly decided this is the best thing since crisp bread. However, be prepared to be shocked, surprised, and there'll be some special guests as well later on in the video. However, we're going to start today with Miss Rio because she has to leave a little bit early. So, okay. Sorry Miss Rio, but you're up. It's your turn now. Right. Drum roll, please.
And also,
we have the buzzer.
So it's 5 minutes maximum.
Okay, I can speak for that long.
And this is the sound that you will hear when your time is up.
Okay.
Right, you ready, Miss Rio?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, time starts now.
Okay. I chose this book called The Silent Companions, which is one that I read in 2020 during, it was like March 2020 in lockdown. First lockdown, when I did most of my reading, but it's one of those books that I just always think about since then. Little things will remind me of it and things like that, and I always feel like that's the sign of a book that has done what it's supposed to do, because it just stays with you. Now, I'm sure you're not surprised, but this is a Victorian Gothic.
No, not surprised at all.
Not surprised. But it's about some things called silent companions. Does anyone know what they are? They are a real thing. No? So in the UK and Europe as well, in these big country houses, they would have wooden painted boards made to look like servants or people in the houses, and they would be there to either shock people in parties and things like that. They'd leave them in corners so then people would walk through and see something and it was like a little joke, or they would put them in the windows when the house was empty if people were on holiday to make it look like there was people in the house. But they're quite terrifying because they're just basically life-size painted boards. You know when you get like life-size cardboard figures of celebs and stuff like that? They're like that, but
promotional material,
yeah,
like the Oscars.
Yeah, but sort of Tudor versions of that. So they're quite creepy. I don't know if you've ever been to Ham House, but they've got loads of them there, original ones, and they've got them painted in servants, and they'll leave them in the corridors and stuff like that. So they're quite creepy. But that is the crux of this book. A pregnant woman who's recently widowed, moves to her husband's big family estate that she's never been to before, and she hears strange noises and scratches and wooden scratches in the room above hers, and she goes up and it's full of these silent companions, and it's so creepy. And
sounds like that scene in Paddington 2 with Hugh Grant in his attic.
Yeah.
I won't, spoil too much. It's one of those ones that starts off very creepy and changes very quickly as you get to the end, as things start to be revealed and there's little secrets.
Is it genuinely terrifying? Because it sounds like it is.
It's pretty scary, yeah. I've read a lot of these sorts of books, and when you read a lot of them, you kind of see the tropes and they don't scare you quite as much, but this was one. I finished reading, a few chapters, and then I lay in bed that night thinking, oh no, I scared myself. Yeah, and it was definitely scary, but that it sounds very scary when you don't know anything. The scary things like that are always in the things untold, whereas when things start to get revealed and the secrets of the house and her family and why these silent companions are there and who bought them, things start to change a lot. But yeah, it was really...
And where's it set?
It's set in... I read it so long ago, but I don't think it really says. I think it's maybe somewhere like Somerset, West Country kind of area. But the fact that she's pregnant is also a really interesting... character point, because I think as a writer I'd be quite scared to write that, because I don't know, like it's quite a vulnerable position to put your main character in, and that comes through from her point of view. It is a book that jumps back every so often to the 15th century or 16th century, I think, when the companions would have been painted, and you get a little bit of a point of view of someone who would have lived in the house originally, and how the two sort of characters intersect and the stories intersect.
You've got 1 minute left if you want to use it.
No, basically, it's just really good, really spooky book if you're in for a good scare. That's what I recommend.
Sounds like BBC should take note too.
Yeah. But yeah, I already thought those silent companions were creepy when I saw them in real life, and then to have a book about them, I thought that's going to be good.
All right.
Yeah, there's mine.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Rio.
Who wants to go?
Right.
Go
Who's
next.
up next? Dahlia.
Yeah, so I will give you 1 minute warning, by the way, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, just because rather than like
Have you
pounce
changed your
you,
mind?
ambush you with the
Change your
buzzer.
mind?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
she's going to talk about that
Okay,
instead.
all right.
So, okay, time starts now.
I picked The Explorer by Catherine Rundell, and as soon as I read this book, it was really sort of confusing for me at the start. Then, as soon as I got to read like halfway, I knew exactly what it was about. It's a really nice book, and also it's kind of like going like all mysterious, and then this big thing happens, and you kind of get that feeling like you know what's going to happen. And I remember one of the chapters, the ruined city. All it starts off is the man was tall, and it kind of describes him in kind of this mysterious way that you'd never think a man would be described in, and it's just a really good book. And
So it kept you hooked.
yeah, because like as soon as I read it, I was like, once I've read this book, I'm gonna read that book, and I read it like at least 5 times. And,
Wow.
my friend who bought it for me for my birthday, I told her, thank you so much for this book, and then she was like, I thought because of the blurb, it's sort of like, it's all it says like like a man-made magic wish, the aeroplane rose into the sky. It did not just stay there for long, which kind of sets you in the mood knowing that something happened, and it kind of explains that something in the first chapter. And the way it kind of like describes the characters to bring them into the story, it's really spooky. And there are many like different things happening in here. Like one time you're up in the air, and the next you're on a dangerous river, and the next you're in a lost city with no one you know except for the people that you came on the plane with.
Sounds like Indiana Jones.
It is a little bit. It is.
And the lost city, that kind of just got me back to the moment of Kong Skull Island, when they go to that mysterious thing and all those people are hiding, but except no person's hiding, it's just a man standing there. And yeah, so
And it's Catherine Rundell's a great author. She writes
Yeah.
very well,
Indeed.
and these wonderful stories like Rooftop, as you're familiar with. This one, of course, is set in the Amazon rainforest,
Yeah.
isn't it, primarily,
And
and
also-
very good sense of place there.
yeah, and also like the way it's set up with like all the detail, like without even looking, like without even like reading the first page, you already know it's set in a jungle, mysterious and like big things. And also I kind of like the amount of colours used in here, because like you've got like some that kind of set the mood, and yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Well within time.
Well within time, just under 3 minutes. Well done.
Okay. Dahlia? Yeah.
So I was going to do Murder on the Orient Express, but then I realised I did have my copy of the ABC Murders, which I'm reading now. I'm a big fan of Agatha Christie.
We all are here.
Yeah, so we're among friends.
So this one is one of the Poirot ones, and should I read the blurb?
Yeah,
If you want to.
If you want to, or read us the opening chapter, or whatever.
So, murder is a very simple crime, but at the hands of a maniac, a serial killer, it becomes a very complicated business. With the whole country in a state of panic, the killer is growing more confident with each successive execution. Mrs. Asher in Andover, Betty Barnard in Bexhill, Sir Carmichael Clark in Chertston, but laying a trail of deliberate clues to taunt the proud Hercule Poirot might just be his first mistake. So I've almost finished it. I think I've got 2 chapters left, and it's very, very, very good. It's so tells the story of, so as said in the blurb, people getting murdered in a town beginning with A, B, and C, and initials of those people are A, B, and C, and where they're murdered, a railway guide, which is called ABC, is found, and Poirot keeps on getting sent clues or letters before each murder telling him where it's going to be, and I thought it was a really, really good book because it's like always keeping you on the edge, and something with Agatha Christie is it's never the obvious answer. It's always...
Yeah, plenty of red herrings in this one.
Yeah,
yes.
always somebody that you don't expect.
Have you seen the David Suchet version?
No.
Oh, it's well worth watching.
Yeah.
It's on, I think it's on the ITV Hub now.
Okay.
It's fabulous cast, and Suchet's just so good. It's just so good.
Also, it's written by, it's a narrative perspective from Captain Hastings, who was helping Poirot, and I thought it was really interesting because some chapters is not from Captain Hastings' personal narrative, so you kind of get to see different people's perspectives on the murder, the victims, or maybe even the murderer. So definitely worth a read, as well as this one as well. So it's very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Daria.
Within time.
Everyone's well within time so far.
Excellent. Eloise, you want to go next? Grab my tea.
Oh, wait. Oops.
Drink my tea.
The book I chose is The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak, and it's one of my favourite books, and I found it randomly at a bookshop, and it was on like the new releases bookshelf, and the cover kind of enticed me, and then I read the blurb and I thought it would sound really good, but it was much better than I thought it would be, and I thought it was going to be really good. But it skips between narratives from like present day, past, and from the point of view of a tree, which I find was really interesting. Basically, the main plot is about Cyprus when it was split between the Greek Christians and the Muslim Turks, and basically these two people fall in love, both from different sides, and the only place that they can meet is in a tavern where basically everyone is welcome no matter what your background is, and the tree is in the middle of the tavern, and it's kind of the whole tavern focuses around this tree. But obviously when the war breaks out, everything the tavern can no longer be running, and then the tree is taken away by present day Ada's father and then taken to England, and it's kind of, it skips back and forth, and even though both of the plot lines aren't incredibly connected apart from the people, it does work a lot, and I found it really interesting, and it keeps on popping up in my mind whenever I'm thinking of books I enjoyed, which I think is really important.
It is, yeah. She's a great writer too.
I met her in an airport once.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Going to Turkey. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes, 38 seconds in a Strange World was book is shortlisted. This might well be as well in
Sounds
future.
on the Women's Prize list as well, wasn't
Yes,
it? Yeah.
with this possibly.
I think she's quite controversial in Turkey now, isn't she, because of the new more Muslim-oriented regime, although you'd never know it from the adverts around the moment. Anyway, so yeah, she's a really interesting person. Yeah. Thanks, Louise. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Time. Wow.
Everyone's within time at the moment.
Well, I'll be breaking the mould then. Mr. Humphries, do you want to go next?
If you like, yes. Someone else is going to have to time me though.
All right.
Or unbuzz
pass
me.
it over to Emily, possibly.
There's the buzzer. And so, hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory, the stopwatch. Right, so I thought I would talk about a YA book that is not very well known, and I believe should be. It was Carnegie shortlisted, and it didn't win the prize, but I feel like it probably should have. It's called The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. Now, this is a debut novel. She's only done one since, and it's very new. It's called Everyone Dies Famous in a Small Town. So I think personally she's really great at titles. Those are two fantastic titles, and both of these books I haven't actually read the second one, but it's about they're set in small towns in America, and they have multiple narrative voices. Now, there's a really strong sense of place in both of them. In Smell of Other People's Houses is set in Alaska. Now, Bonnie Sue Hitchcock herself is a good, unique authority on this because she brought her children up on a boat in Alaska. In Alaska. And since then, she's been living in a yurt in Alaska as well. So, she's truly living off the land. So whilst there is a particular vivid sense of place, Alaska, big exotic setting, the themes that are involved are very universal ones. We have things like growing up, it's a very rites of passage tale, family. What do we mean by family? Is it just your blood relations, or is it other people as well? The different interconnected relationships we have, community. It deals with big things like racism as well, come into it. And as I was saying, there's like multiple narratives and multiple narrative voices. So there's four main narrative voices in this. And at first it all seems very random and scattergun, but actually they converge as the novel progresses, and it's done very, very subtly and very cleverly and very well. So now, as the title might suggest, smell. This, think of the five senses when creative writing and the stories. Smell plays a very big part in it. I'm just going to read you a couple of examples. So this is one of the narrative voices. Cedar is the smell of swim team parties at their house and the big 8x10-inch Richard Nixon photograph that hung in the living room. Cedar is the smell of Republicans. It's the smell of sneaking from Ray's older sister's room. Anna also summoned my really team. I befriended her out of necessity. And into Ray's room, where I crawled into his queen-sized bed facing the sliding glass doors that looked out on the lake. How many 16-year-old boys had a queen-sized bed? I'm guessing one. And had sheets that smelled like cedar and Tide. And I held a boy with curly blonde hair bleached from the swimming pool. He was the best diver in the state, and I was only on a dumb relay team, but he sought me out anyway. We could have drowned in our combined smells of chlorine and ignorance. Guess which part I was. So that's one of the characters, and you can see that she's using smell to sort of like describe her relationships with the characters. And this is another one of the characters talking about smell. Dad starts up the engine, and the noise down here is deafening, although I know it won't take long to get used to, and soon it will sound no louder than a purring kitten. I breathe in diesel, the smell of my childhood, of sleeping in the belly of this boat that has always made my dreams bouncy. I never sleep as well anywhere as I do here on the Squid, and now I get the big bunk too, which even has a little shelf built in for all my favourite books to make it cosier. See how hard my dad tried? So yeah, so those are just two. There's other narrative voices, and yeah, like I said, they all converge. And as you can see, it's very effective writing. You really can picture it vividly, not just the surroundings, but also the characters and their relations with each other and with their environments. So yeah, she missed out on the Carnegie Medal. So I'm hoping, I do believe it's been longlisted.
I think so.
Because the Carnegie longlist was released recently, so I'm hoping this will make the shortlist. I mean, I haven't actually read it yet, but if it's half as good as this, then...
How long till the shortlist?
The shortlist is on the 16th of March.
Yeah, not long.
Yeah, not long at all. I mean, the long list is only just released, but yeah, it's always a month later. Yeah. So yeah, heartily recommend this, because yeah, it's just... I would say it deserves to be a YA classic, really, with the way it depicts growing up and rites of passage, essentially.
Is it not that popular?
Well, it's not unpopular.
It's been
it's been borrowed. It's been borrowed about 5 or 6 times. It's just not as well known.
Wouldn't jump off.
No.
Like other ones.
No. I feel like it deserves to be as well known as something like Catherine Rundell, for example.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought I'd spotlight this one. So there we go. I think I'm well within time as well. I've done all right there.
Yeah, 45 seconds.
Hey, there you go. That's probably the longest yet.
Okay, we better bite the bullet. Go on, Sophie.
You can keep doing it if you want. Yeah. Emily's going to take over.
New job. Okay. I chose Twilight, obviously, and
we forgive you.
No heckling, please. That was good.
It's set around. It's about a teenage girl called Bella who falls in love with a vampire, and obviously that's a bit dangerous and random, maybe. Anyway, I wrote something down. Okay. I think you should all read it because it is an amazing book that I have no doubt you will love. It has many different genres, so it's styled perfectly for anyone's taste. Action, romance, fantasy, and horror in this one. Twilight keeps you gripped until the very last word by giving you an exhilarating plot. It keeps you wondering what happens next. There's a new thing around every corner, and by picking up the book, I can assure you, you can be sure an incredible journey will be waiting for you behind the pages. It features a lot of mysteries, because obviously she falls in love with a vampire, so that's a bit, you kind of wonder what's going to happen about that. And towards the end you wonder if she's going to die. So plenty of surprises waiting to jump at you from the depth of the plot. It's one of those books that I've picked up over and over again and you never get bored. And Stephanie Meyer throws in a really good blend of romance to like counteract all the kind of violence in this one, which makes it a perfect young adult / teen novel thing.
Right, tell us about the cover.
Okay, I don't really know about the colours, to be honest. It's kind of random, it's an apple. I mean, the vampires have very pale skin, so that's like... I like it because it's very basic and doesn't say like the title on the front, it says it on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's just that edition. Previous editions,
yeah.
the
They
words
were black, weren't they?
They were black and they had the words.
yeah, well, I like this one.
Okay, okay.
And
I still want to know about this apple.
I mean, it's meant to be a red apple because it's kind of like...
Or is it Snow White? Is that what it is?
I don't know.
There's all sorts of things the apple gets associated with. The Garden of Eden's another
Well,
one.
it's Eve, isn't there? Is she Eve? Ah, yes, she is, isn't she?
Yeah. So
Yeah, okay.
I'll read the the preface part
Okay.
of it because it really gets you gripped. I never given much thought to how I would die, and that's what I'm going to read.
Okay,
That's a decent
that's
first
a
sentence.
hook.
So yeah, as soon as you read it, you kind of know what's gonna happen next, and also the blurb is quite simple, but it says about 3 things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him, and I didn't know how dominant that part may be, that thirsted for my blood. And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. So it's about love, yeah, a lot, but
I'd say it's about most relationships, quite frankly, but there we are. Yes.
I don't know what to say.
This sounds... You've made it sound really intriguing.
You made it sound better than it actually is.
Yeah.
So well done.
That's
No,
not-
sorry, I
that
take
was
it-
that horrible.
I take it back.
Thank you, Sophie. It's really kind of you.
Yes,
to
thank
actually
you,
put
Sophie.
yourself
You
out
were very brave, and I apologise.
there. You know that
Also, I did say to Sophie before we started filming that we are hoping that she will actually do a Lit Soc on Twilight if she would, and maybe she can talk about the other books as well
Oh, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
do
the whole
in the
Yes.
series, because you said you read that one, but
no, I've read all of them, obviously.
but again and again.
Yeah, I have read them again.
Okay,
the apple
Uh,
cover.
It kind of gets worse as it goes on, to be honest.
fine.
No,
You can expand more. Daya's got something to add for us though.
I don't know if it's true, but it's because I think that the reason why the apple's on the cover is because in the movie, Bella.
It was added in. It's not in the book.
I know, but it's kind of like in the movie, Bella drops the apple. And then
They
added that in.
They added that in because of the apple on the
And I
front
think we
cover.
can take Sophie's word in this because
Oh,
she's read it
it's
so many
It's
times.
a link then.
Yeah,
Maybe
they
the
just
apple,
added it.
because you said the vampires have very pale skin.
Yeah,
Maybe the
that's
apple
what I
is
thought,
like
because it's a red
contrasts
apple
it.
and it's
Well,
blood,
yeah, it does.
obviously.
Yeah.
yeah. That part in the
I
movie.
made my link was with Northern Lights actually. Lyra as the new Eve.
Right.
That's my. Because if you think of Bella.
Have you read Northern Lights, Sophie? Okay.
Oh yeah, you should, Sophie. That's a really
Everyone should,
good
by the way. It's really good.
link to Twilight actually, because there are vampires in that, but there are other people as well.
We can expand upon this when Sophie does a Lit Soc.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that.
Okay,
And I promise we won't have you.
well done, Sophie. Thank you very much, Evie. Da-da-da-da. Okay, more blood and mayhem.
So I've chosen the Red Queen,
Yeah,
which
or even
I
Red
am
Queen.
still reading, but
Okay.
I just fell in love with it. It's a mix of a lot of things. It's kind of like the Hunger Games, and there's so much going on in it. But I'll read the blurb because I find that really hooked me when I was going to buy it. This is a world divided by blood, red or silver. The Reds are commoners ruled by a silver elite in possession of godlike powers. and to a 17-year-old Mar, a red girl from the poverty-stricken stilts, it seems like nothing will ever change. But Mar poses a deadly talent of her own, one that threatens to destroy the balance of power. Fearful of her potential, the Silvers hide Mar in plain sight, declaring her a long-lost Silver Princess. Knowing that one false move will mean her death, Mar uses her new position to bring down the regime from the inside. Now Mar has entered a game of betrayal and lies. And I am literally still in the 3rd chapter, but it's just become one of my favourite books. So it's set in this very much dystopian world where there's one group of people who have red blood, group of people who have silver blood, and there's very much a division. Mar lives in the stilts, which is a village of houses built on stilts, which has not got a very original name. And in the city there is there's like an arena where they have sort of like almost gladiatorial fights between the red and the silvers, and Mar's brother is fighting in a war between
sounds like
the red and
to me.
between the Red's army and the Silver army about who should have more land, I think it is, and then another one of her family members has to go into war. And it is very crazy, but it is definitely just one of my favourite books, I think. And there's a whole bunch of series like.
Yeah, there's loads of secrets. It's a big fantasy series. It's American, I believe.
It is American, isn't it?
Pretty sure.
I think it's American. It's a New York Times bestseller. But if you get a chance to read it, because it's amazing, and it's just one of my favourites.
It sounds like fantasy as much as dystopia. It reminds me of things like Cassandra Clare and Sarah J. Maas. I'm sure some of you've heard of those. So
YA fantasies.
YA fantasies. There's plenty of those out right now. All right.
Well done.
Thank you,
Well
Evie.
within time. Yeah. Excellent. Right, Evie, you're taking over because it's Emily now.
Yes.
Excellent.
So I've got The Sun Is Also a Star, and I read this book while I was on a ski camp in last year in Easter, and it was just like, it was a really good book to read. Like every night I'd come home really tired and I'd just curl up on the sofa and read this book till 8, and it would be such a good book to read because like every chapter I'd be like really hooked into it and I just couldn't put the book down. And it's from multiple people's points of view. So the two main characters is Natasha and Daniel. And Natasha is 12 hours away from being deported to Jamaica, and Daniel he wants to be a poet, and but like he's got a very good life so far, and he's living up to his parents' high expectations. But then they meet each other and they start falling in love. But the only problem is that Natasha doesn't really tell him that she's going to be deported to Jamaica. So she only believes in science and facts. She doesn't really believe in destiny, whereas he does because he loves writing poems and he believes in destiny. So he tries to make her fall in love with him, even though she isn't admitting to it. But it's really good because you see loads of other people's points of view, like random people on the streets. Like their own personal stories as well. It's like suddenly one chapter is about this random person, and then you see that something's going on in their life, and then you actually want to know more about them as well. And on the blurb, it's quite a long blurb, but I'll read what the universe says. Every moment in our lives has brought us to this single moment. A million futures lie before us. Which one will come true? So it's like there's different people, and there's also like the universe, like other like random stuff saying things as well, which is, I find it's really cool to see loads of point of views and like kind of like wise words kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Classic star-crossed love there as well.
Yes,
You know,
I
because
think
she's
so,
about
yeah.
to be. Is she deported? I can't remember. It's a while since I've read it. Was she actually being deported?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they're unable to be together,
Yeah,
as well as the fact they've got
unfortunately,
different
all too
outlooks.
true.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But also the fact, yeah, as you said, one's scientific, one's poetic, and they learn a lot from each other with their different outlooks. So thank you, Emily. Well done.
Well within.
Everyone we haven't heard the buzzer since Are we going to hear it, I wonder? We've only got one person left, I believe.
Indeed. You might well hear it.
So don't be afraid. Be strict with Miss Huntley. If she gets to 5, give her a 1-minute warning at 4.
I did last year. I did last time. I did. I had to stop, didn't I? Literally on the. So, could we not start it just yet, Emily? Because I just want to talk about the table. Okay. On the table are a random selection, totally random, of favourite books of various people, and also that we just pulled off the shelf because it's World Book Day and we're celebrating all books. Okay, so this one, for example, which is Victor Hugo Les Miserables, very famous musical, very famous text, now being rebroadcast on Radio 4 Extra. And also still available on iPlayer, I think, as a series. Anyway, this is Mrs. Richards in the History Department's favourite book, and she long ago did a Lit Soc for us on
Long ago.
Long ago before we videoed. So here we are, Kirsty. There it is. Okay. The Catcher in the Rye.
A lot of people's favourite.
A lot of people's favourite. Yeah. Holden Caulfield. The ultimate teenager, J.D. Salinger, the ultimate writer recluse, and this has been voted people's favourite books and was on the big read a long time ago. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born and what my lousy childhood was like and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me and all that David Copperfield kind of crap, but I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. So there we are. It won't be about that then. It'll be about a load of phonies set in New York City when he's supposed to be at school. What else have we got? Jane Eyre. One of my favourite books, and certainly my favourite book for a very long time. And we've got the Gothic motif of the candle going out, and the red, and the Mad Woman in the Attic, who could be any one of us, including me. And for Jane Eyre, orphan and impoverished governess, the last person she should want is the only person she needs, her employer, Mr. Rochester. Not only is he socially inaccessible, he's also a man of few words and many secrets. And one of his secrets is so terrible it could destroy everything he and Jane hold dear. If you haven't read it by the age of 20, I will never talk to you again.
You're on warning, everyone.
Okay. So you can't choose who you fall in love with. Well, okay. Certainly.
She says it's one of her favourites, but she definitely throws Pride and Prejudice, as we found out in the debate. Just want to point that one out.
This too is actually the other side of the coin. This is Stella Gibbons. Actually, this is one of my favourite books, Gold Comfort Farm. This is a humorous, extremely funny Gothic story with a bit of Pride and Prejudice and Jane Austen thrown in. When sensible, sophisticated Flora Post is orphaned at 19, she decides her only choice is to descend upon relatives in deepest Sussex. At the aptly named Cold Comfort Farm, she meets the doomed Starcadders, cousin Judith, Amos, Elphine, crazed old Aunt Dame Doom, who has kept her in her bedroom for the last 20 years because she saw something nasty in the woodshed. They are her relatives. You wouldn't want to pay for these relatives, but really worth seeking out. We also got 2 Weeks with the Queen, Virginia Woolf to the Lighthouse. I was Jane Austen's best friend, which is certainly fictional. Fahrenheit 451. Fahrenheit 451 is the temperature at which paper burns. Okay, this is about a fireman, but not that sort of fireman. Okay, Flamingo Boy by Michael Morpurgo. Strange Meeting by Susan Hill, which is about a wonderful First World War story, and the ubiquitous Hunger Games. Okay, so lots here. Right, my time starts now. Thank you very much. Right, last night when I got home, news is universally bad, and UK TV play in the persona of drama had on an Inspector Calls, which we are teaching at the moment. I'm teaching to Year 11 and revising it, and Year 10 are studying at the moment. These are by J.B. Priestley, written in 1946. It is still, very sadly, extremely relevant today. It is the story of the Burling family and their relationship and how it's revealed by the inspector with a person called Eva Smith, who's also had multiple names, such as Daisy Renton and various other things. Last night was the BBC version, it was last transmitted in 2015. It's been on iPlayer during lockdown. The reason that I think drama push it on, not only because we're in the exam season or revision, but also because it is about bullying, and there is a lot of bullying going on in the world in all sorts of guises, not just in Ukraine today. And sadly, J.B. Priestley would be horrified to know that this book is still relevant. Eva she started out having a good life. She worked for Mr. Burling. She asked for more money along with various other people. She was sacked, and that was her downward slide. She got involved with the whole of the family. They were horrible to her. It's all pure coincidence, but it's also a detective play, and well worth watching. It's coming to Wimbledon in September. Well worth watching on the catch-up hub for UK TV play. It is very, very sad, and it's also beautifully done. David Thewlis, who you'll know from Harry Potter, is the inspector. He seems to know everything, and you do think, why? And if I tell you that his name is Inspector Gould, perhaps you'll be able to work it out. So, well worth it. However, that was not originally the book I was going to talk about today. The book I was going to talk about is my favourite book, or one of my favourite books by this particular author. As we all know, Ursula Le Guin is my person of choice. If I ever have a dinner party and dead people can come, Miss Le Guin will be there. Ursula Le Guin's World of Winter is real. From the first page you find yourself totally immersed in it, and at the last page you come out of it with a start and a shiver. Anybody who can write a novel like this has my respect and admiration. Now, it's set on Winter. Winter is a planet far out in the reaches of the universe. Never mind our galaxy, it's way beyond our galaxy. She's well known as a science fiction writer. She also wrote the wonderful series The Wizard of Earthsea. No Harry Potter if no Earthsea. Earthsea did it first, the School for Wizards on Roke. However, this is being told by a diplomat who has a terrible time on the planet called Winter. The other thing is that Ursula Le Guin, in her middle years and further on, was a great friend of Margaret Atwood, who wrote The Handmaid's Tale. And in Gilead would not be the same if Ursula Le Guin had not been written. So it begins. I'll make my report as if I told a story, for I was taught as a child on my home world that truth is a matter of the imagination. The soundest fact may fail or prevail in the style of its telling, like that singular organic jewel of our seas, which grows brighter as one woman wears it, and worn by another dulls and goes to dust. Facts are no more solid, coherent, round, and real than pearls are, but both are sensitive. The story is not all mine, nor is told by me alone. Indeed, I am not sure whose story it is. You can judge better. But it is all one, and if at moments the facts seem to alter with an altered voice, why then you can choose the fact you like best, yet none of them are false, and it is all one story. It starts on the 44th diurnal of the year 1491, which on the planet Winter in the nation Karhide was Ohata Hadjua, or the 22nd day of the third month of spring in the year 1. It is always the year 1 here. Only the dating of every past and future year changes each year's day. New Year's Day as one counts backwards or forwards from the unitary now. So it was spring of the year 1 in Eyre, the capital city of Karhide, and I was in peril of my life and did not know it. I was in a parade. I walked just behind the Gossiwas, and just before the king, it was raining.
20 seconds.
Transgender, a king who is pregnant, a diplomat in danger. Read it.
Well done.
5 seconds.
Wow. Well done, Miss Annie. Very impressive. I think that's the first time Miss Annie's managed to keep
It is. It is, absolutely.
And considering you talked about 2 books as well.
I know.
But no, I'm glad you did talk about Inspector Calls. You're right, it is a hugely important one. Definitely.
Sadly, it is.
Sadly, but it is brilliant.
It is.
It is. There's a reason we study at GCSE.
Yeah. I want to finish off today. I know this is a bit of a cheat, but
That's okay, Miss Annie. You carry on. You are Lit Soc after all.
I want to finish off today with Ursula Le Guin, because Ursula Le Guin would be horrified to think that we and America and Europe are on the brink of war. And I'm afraid I have to talk about it today because it is extremely important. I know it's very, very dark, and you think it's a long way away. It is a long way away, but it still affects us because we're all human beings. This is basically Le Guin's take on science fiction. It's not about Star Wars, it's not about robots, it's about human beings in their place. Sometimes the worlds are like Earth, sometimes they are not like Earth at all. Sometimes they're just water, sometimes they are just forest, and the forest is the world, and literally the world. Can you imagine living in a world where it's nothing but trees and you are the only human on it and everything else is a sentient being, but it's a tree? How do you communicate with a tree? Anybody got any ideas?
You can hug a tree.
Hug a tree? Yeah. Yeah.
Pretend to be a tree.
Pretend to be a tree.
Be the
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah.
Morse code.
Morse code, possibly. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, trees
Yeah.
communicate with each other, under the ground. They work together cooperatively with their roots. So somehow
Through the fungi.
Yeah. So
So-
somehow like that.
Yeah.
That's my best guess.
Yeah. We might have to find out, mightn't we? Okay.
Please tell.
Yeah. Well, this is a short story from the Wind's 12 Quarters. Now, the Wind's 12 Quarters is an extremely famous short story collection by her. There are others as well. But in here is a story that is taught in universities across America. Not so much here, although it may well be taught at East Anglia, I don't know. Anyway, it's called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. The central idea of this psycho-myth, the scapegoat, turns up in Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov, and several people have asked me, rather suspiciously, why I gave the credit to William James. The fact is I haven't been able to reread Dostoevsky as much as I loved him since I was 25, and I simply forgotten he used the idea. But when I met it in James's The Moral Philosopher and the Moral Life, it was with a shock of recognition. Here is how James puts it. I'm not going to read that. The idea is that Omelas is a town. It's an extremely happy, beautiful town. It's called Bright Towered. It's got flags, it's got beautiful buildings. The buildings are different colours. It's amazing, it's beautiful. Everybody is extremely happy. They're not on anything. They're not, chewing cocoa leaves or, drinking thousands of cups of coffee all day. They're not simple. But they are happy, and the reason they are happy is because there is one person, a child, who is kept in a room, and only by having this child who on all the bad negative feelings are fixated can the rest of the town be happy. So basically the story is about the ones who walk away from this town, who make a choice and who choose not to be happy at the expense of someone else, who choose not to bully, whether emotionally or physically, who cannot stand the thought. And it's a very important book, particularly in America, because America does quite a lot of bullying and has done over the years. There are other people who have civilizations that have as well over the years, but needless to say, one other who's involved in Ukraine at the moment. But anyway, they are taken to see this child, and they have to understand the situation. It's not a long story. It's quite upsetting, but it's very profound, and it talks about philosophical morality. And her last word is, but they seem to know where they are going, the ones who walk away from Omelas. And they make that choice. We all have a choice, and as much as we have a choice of what we read and how we behave, and that is what I want to leave you with today. Thank you for listening, everybody. Happy World Book Day next week. We look forward to some wonderful costumes at the Cavendish Fashion Show, even if not from the pupils during the day.
We will still have some.
We
I've
will
been
still
hearing
have
some.
them, I think.
Yeah, we will still have some.
And we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for listening, and thank you for everybody for all your contributions.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you, Miss
you.
Ellie. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So, my favourite book of all time is really, really hard to pin down, so I'll just tell you my favourite books this year. I've read 2 books by Emily St. John Mandel, which are real page-turners. She tends to write thrillers, which are from multiple perspectives. One of them is called Station 11,
which is about, it was written before the pandemic, and it's about a world where a pandemic has come and killed 99% of the population. And it's about how humanity survives before and after the pandemic. So that's really, really exciting. It's particularly exciting because it was written just before the pandemic. And it's remarkable what it gets right, and also what it shows how bad the pandemic could have got if it was a much more serious virus. The other book of hers I really like is The Glass Hotel, which is a story of a Ponzi scheme, which is a financial fraud scheme. But you don't hear about it from the inside, you hear about it from the characters who are associated with it. Anyway, what I like about Emily St. John Mandel's work is she tends to pick about 8 or 9 characters, and then each chapter follows them, each one separately, focalizing, looking over their shoulder and following them through the story. And so you'll get a chapter where you get very close into one character, and then you don't see that character for about 50 pages, and you come back and check in with them. And that's very much her style of both books, but they're very, very readable. Once you pick them up, you can't put them down. So those are my my hot tips for reading this year.
So, my favourite book of all time is To Kill a Mockingbird, and the reason I love it so much is because I think it has something in it for everyone. It touches on everything there is to do with humanity, and I think it teaches us the most important lesson of all, which is to be kind and to have empathy for each other. And when I read it, it was the book that has always stayed with me, and I find myself comparing many characters in my real life to the characters in that text and using it as my own moral guide. And so when I think about how I might react to a situation, I think of what might Atticus do, or what might Scout do, what might Cal do, and I just find that it gives me guidance if I feel a bit lost on things, and that's why I love that text so much, and I think everyone should read it and hopefully get something from it. And yeah, that's my favourite book of all time. Happy World Book Day!
Happy World Book Day.
A favourite book that I like is Sweet Sorrow by David Nichols. It is set over one summer. It's a love story. It's about a boy called Charlie, a girl called Fran, who are sort of from opposite sides of the tracks in a way, and they perform Romeo and Juliet together, and it has some lovely parallels with that. It's funny, and there's a brilliant audio book that's read by Rory Kinnear, who is a personal friend of mine.
Hello, my name is Mr. Allen, and my favourite book is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I think it is the perfect image, and it encaptures everything that we expect in 1920s America, with that almost mysterious tension that's created through the crimes that were committed and the arrogance of the upper class. But then embedded within that, we have this almost fascination and this love of our title character Gatsby, and the way he's willing to travel to the ends of the world and push himself to both the most physical and emotional limits to really showcase his love for someone that's unattainable. I would recommend it highly as a quick read. It's only a short one, but you could probably get it in the library and have it back within the next day. Thank you.
My favourite book is My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Dowell. I came upon this book when I was in the equivalent of Year 8, when I was a pupil at Surden High School, and it was the book we had to read, and I have to say I have read it probably every year since I was in Year 8. I love it so much. Just Gerald's family, and the way they all behave, the older brother Larry, and the fact that he's so dismissive of his mother, the way they off they go to Corfu, and Jerry with all his animals, the little dog, Roger the dog, Whittle and Puke, the other dogs. He collected an albatross, geckos, his mad sister Olive and her, not Olive, we'll come with Margot, and her Ackley and Leslie and his guns, and mother who just put up with these 4 crazy children. I recommend it to everybody.
So one of my favourite series of books, which I'm reading at the moment, is the Jack Reacher series by Lee Child. There's about 30 books, I think, and he goes around America in small towns, killing people and solving problems, and he's doing the military. It's good fun. There were a couple of films with Tom Cruise, which loads of people didn't like, but I quite liked the films. But they just made a new series as well with someone who's the exact opposite physically of Tom Cruise, and much closer to Reacher himself, the character, which is really good fun. So yeah, I'm making my way through them, and they're great. The other book that is, well, I would say on my bedside, but on my iPad, half finished, is the biography of Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, which the musical is based on. It's fantastic. I really, really enjoy it, but it's so wordy and thick. I had to put it down and take a break, to coin a phrase. So I will go back to that at some point, because it is absolutely fascinating, and I love the musical and everything about it. So that's me.
Great, thank you, Mr. Because that's a lovely link with America as well. Thanks ever so much.
No problem.
Happy World Book Day.
Hello, I'm Miss Chayton, I'm from reception, and I'm just presenting my favourite book on World Book Day. It is Jurassic Park. So you have seen the movie, but you must read the book. It is my absolute favourite, and I've read it more than 5 times, and each time it feels like a new story. So I would say that if you're year 7, maybe hold off a little bit. I would say maybe for older readers. And it is a really, really interesting read. So even if you've seen the film, please do read the book. Michael Crichton was especially interested in cloning, and he spent his life researching all scientific ways to clone things. So it is a testament to his research, and go ahead and read it. Hope you enjoy.
So this book here is called The Cloud Garden. It's one of my favourite books. I read it about 10 years ago. It's a bit of a strange book because it's based on a true story, and it's about these two men here. They're from the UK. One's a botanist, and one was just travelling over in Central America, and they're travelling through the Darien Gap, which is an area of Central America that joins to South America, and less people have been able to travel through that area than have been able to climb to the top of Mount Everest. And I happened to be in the area at that time, so I read the book about their story, and they ended up getting kidnapped. It's about their struggle to escape, and how their family ended up helping them escape. And one of them actually formed a friendship with the captors. So it's really, really interesting about how very normal people end up in extraordinary circumstances in a very dangerous part of the world, but fascinating part of the world. So for me, whilst I was there on site, it was really, really interesting, and it was something that I will always remember, looking around and absorbing maybe how they might have felt in that area at that time.
Can you describe the area a bit?
Yes, it's obviously, as the name suggests, it's in the cloud rainforest. It's very hot, it's humid, lots of mosquitoes, lots of strange plants, which is why the botanist wanted to go there to try and find an orchid, a special orchid. And there was somebody else who just wanted to try and get through the area, but they ended up getting into a lot of trouble. So it's dangerous there. They have lots of dangerous animals, poisonous, as well as jaguars as well. And it's surrounded on both sides by the Atlantic and the Caribbean Ocean. So there's not much of way of escaping, and it's quite mountainous as well, so difficult terrain.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flynn. Go.
My favourite book is Narnia, or The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. I've loved this book since I was like 5 years old. It's a very good read if you read the whole Chronicles from beginning to end, which I have numerous times. And I really can recommend this to most children from the age of 5 upwards. My grandchildren love it. My children loved it, and yeah, I can highly recommend it.
What is it about The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, Candy, that you really love?
I just like the fantasy side of it. I think it's just nice and the fact that, you know, it's not real, but it's just real. Nice. It's interesting, and it's really nice. All the different characters that you get to meet along the way, that Lucy gets to meet, and Edmund, and it's just a really lovely book.
Yeah, and Aslan's such a great character.
Oh yeah, I love Aslan. Yeah, definitely. And Mr. Tumblers.
Yeah, the fawn.
Yeah, the fawn,
The fawn, yeah. Lovely. Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome.